This and every episode of REKT Podcast is brought to you by Beaksy Exchange, an upcoming cryptocurrency exchange built in collaboration with One Market Data. Beaksy is bringing legacy finance speed, power, and sophistication to crypto for the first time. With 225,000 transactions per second per pair, comparable to NASDAQ, 15 order types on day one, with 25 order types on full rollout, and a dedicated customer support team, Beaksy is setting itself apart from the competition. Check out Beaksy today at Beaksy.com and pre-register today at Beaksy.com/registration to get your free Beaksy Exchange tokens. That's Beaksy.com, BEAXY.com.
Hi there, I'm Peter McCormack, and this is REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchu Betts alongside one of my esteemed colleagues and co-hosts today, Cynthia Wood. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm sure everybody thought it was going to be Chamber, but it's me.
It is
Less
Cynthia.
Canadian, more broad.
Chamber can't join us today, unfortunately. He is gallivanting with the big wigs at his real 9-to-5 job, so we are rolling solo today, but we have an excellent guest. You definitely know him from Twitter and the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Peter McCormack, how are you, Peter?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of what you guys do. Big fan of Cynthia as well. So, yeah, thank you.
You clearly are a big fan of Cynthia. So if you if you know Peter from Twitter, you've seen him and his Ian Bellina picture that he carries around to various places or hangs in his house. And we are recording this on a Google Hangout, so we are actually looking at Peter. And in the background, it is not Ian Bellina, but a picture of Cynthia. So it's pretty fantastic. But we are super psyched to have Peter. I am a big fan of his podcast. I listen to pretty much every episode. It makes me feel smarter because, what we do here is a little goofy, and, he gets all the smart people. So we are lucky to have him. But Peter, let's get right into it. So, we like to start off by asking our guests kind of how they got into crypto. How did you get to be where you are today? What did you do before this mess, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, that's a good question. I've answered a few times now. It happened in two different times. So the first time was in 2013 when somebody introduced me to a website that was a bit like Amazon, but you could buy things that you usually had to meet somebody in the car park at Tesco's to buy. So, and you had to use Bitcoin to buy those things. So I was like, what? I was like, okay, that's amazing. So I used that website, bought some Bitcoin, and then it was about the time the price started to move in 13. So I then started trading Bitcoin CFDs on Plus 500, which is like a CFD platform. Very quickly made, at the time, what seemed like a lot of money. Probably over the space of a few weeks, made around £20,000. Very quickly lost it. Yeah, but very quickly lost it again. We back then used to get these. I don't know if you knew it back then. We used to get these flash crashes. So sure. Yeah, and it'll be during the night while you're asleep. So you get a flash crash, margin called, a couple of grand gone. So it was kind of a bit like, it was just a bit gambling. It was good, it was fun, but then I didn't really pay attention to the tech. I wasn't that bothered by it all, and then just kind of forgot about it again. The prices crashed, kind of like probably like a bunch of people did in this bull run, where some of us are stuck around and other people have said, can you swear on your podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so some people have probably said like fuck this, and they've gone. I was kind of like, at the time I was like, fuck this is stupid, like forgot about it. Kind of kept an eye on the price. I remember like it just getting lower and lower, and I was thinking this thing's dead. And then kind of remember the price going kind of back up again. And then what happened is, like, you might have heard me tell this story, but like my mum got sick. My mum got cancer, and chemo failed, everything failed, apart from like her own treatment of herself. Like she went vegan and stopped drinking, apart from when she was with me. And the last thing I was like, look, you might as well try CBD. I've read some good things about it. I've got a friend, like, he's ex-Facebook, who's now like a huge investor in different areas of the cannabis industry, and he was like, we should try it. So my dad was like, okay, how do you do it? So I said, well, look, you can buy it with Bitcoin on these websites. So I went onto Google, searched how to buy Bitcoin, because I hadn't bought Bitcoin in like 3 years. Found Coinbase, bought a Bitcoin. Bought the treatment. It was too late. Sadly, Mum passed, and then I was kind of stuck at my dad's with nothing to do in like Ireland. It's the middle of nowhere, and went back on, transferred the Bitcoin back to Coinbase, and then kind of saw this Ethereum thing that I hadn't really noticed. So, kind of did some Google searching, like read about it. I was out of work at the time as well. I used to have this advertising agency that had gone bust, but I had some money left over, so I was like. Said to my dad, look, I'm going to stick some money into this Bitcoin thing. So I bought like, I don't know, put £5,000 in at the time. So I bought whatever number of Bitcoins that was at the time. And then whatever was left over, bought like a whole number. Whatever was left over, I bought Ethereum, which was like at $9.
Wow.
So I bought something like, yeah, I know, it was ridiculous. I bought something like just 80 Ethereum or whatever it was, whatever the amount was. And then proceeded over the next 5-6 weeks to put up to 23,000, which is about $32,000. And then just went on this wild ride that's been like a 2-year journey now. Like initially just buying a bunch of crap, not knowing what I'm doing, kind of figuring it out. I think that was the best way to figure it out, was to like buy everything, and then proceeded to get more into the content and get away from the trading, and there's lots of little stories in between. How's that?
That's an awesome story. So what kind of got you from, all right, it's 2013, you really weren't into the tech of it all yet, to what was that turning point for you? Because with your podcast, you have you do have some really technical people on there, so it's definitely something changed. What was it?
I think it was having time. So when the previous time, like in 2013, I'm trying to remember the exact dates, but my advertising agency was like 3 years old or something, 4 years old. It was going very well. We were a team probably about 20 at that point. I didn't really have time to look at it. This time around, I wasn't working. I'd taken pretty much a year off. To spend time with my mum and various other things, various other reasons. And so I had time to look into it and read about it, and I just thought, I don't know, something about it just grabbed me. I thought, this sounds a bit more interesting this time. Decided just to look into the tech a bit more. It felt a bit kind of, because I worked through the first .com boom. I don't know how old you guys are, but when that first happened, I worked through it, and I was like, this has a similar feel. I disagree with that point now, but at the time I was like, okay, this seems super interesting. There could be a whole new wave of like financial money. Sorry, sure. technical money, and this is worth having a look at. But I think my opinions like over those 2 years have changed dramatically just by being so close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think the biggest change has been for you? Because I think, from the time listening to your stuff, it seems like you've kind of gone from Bitcoin and then got yourself into all these altcoins and all that kind of stuff, and now it seems like you've almost come full circle back around to sort of a Bitcoin maximalism.
Yeah, I try to say I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I try to say I'm more of a Bitcoin maximalist sympathizer. Because, I totally get why maximalists are the way they are, like why they have their opinion. They've repeatedly watched people try to create blockchain-based things in the kind of shadow of Bitcoin, but they're not Bitcoin for a number of reasons. They're not decentralized, or they have a leader, or they're trying to deliver some they've just seen cycle after cycle of these altcoin projects happen, and they've seen so many people get like wrecked from it and ruined from it. So I'm certainly a sympathizer, because what I've come to realize is that it's Bitcoin and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is totally unique compared to everything else, and also I just don't think the technology. I just think most of it's fucking nonsense. Like the technology is like, I've been reading about like the next version of Ethereum, and it's just so complicated, and I just don't know. I'm very bearish on everything else. I think everything else has got a lot to prove, whereas Bitcoin has kind of proved itself for 10 years. It doesn't have to prove itself as much anymore.
Sure. So, based on that, where do you kind of see the crypto landscape, going from here 10 years from now? How do you think it'll change and evolve?
Great question. Well, it's hard to predict. I mean, I think Bitcoin will still be here, and will become stronger, and will become a more important part of the global economy and the financial system. I think it's becoming almost a necessity to have an exposure to Bitcoin rather than it be just speculation. We're seeing or having conversations with so many different people now who are aware of it or have some kind of exposure to it, and like we keep getting these stories, like the one this week about Russia might buy Bitcoin. Like, who knows? Right. They probably are, but who knows, right? Who knows if Iran and Venezuela aren't mining Bitcoin with their virtually close to free state-sponsored electricity,
sure,
and making a serious amount of money for it? Nobody knows. But I certainly expect Bitcoin to still exist and be a very important part. I think almost everything else will die off in the next 5 years. 5 years is a long enough time frame to say the majority of it is fucked, because nobody's using these dApps. They're going to run out of money. There's no real kind of demand for these decentralized applications. Nobody's really shipping anything. The stuff being shipped isn't usable. So I think most of it will die off. What I expect out the back of that is like some use cases to be found, some kind of fintech ones. Like, so Make a Die seems kind of interesting. I'm not a huge fan of Ethereum, but I get the business use case for some of this. Like, if you're in Argentina and you want to borrow dollars because it's a more stable currency, it kind of makes sense that if you have like a Coinbase account, like you borrow the money from BlockFi transfers you like some kind of stable coin, and you can like withdraw that into the local currency as and when you need it, but hold dollar, right? That I kind of get those use cases. Outside of that, I think there's so much to be proven. Some of the most interesting or like things with the most potential are something like Augur, and I've used it and I still don't get it.
It's hard to use.
It's hard to use.
It is not easy to use. I mean, I think it's awesome because I am I'm a gambler, so I enjoy the idea of the prediction market and all that kind of stuff is interesting to me as I sit here and play my Real Hero 5-minute charts on. But it's so the gambling aspect. But I tried to use it, man, and it is tough to use. And so I don't know how you're getting my mom or dad or grandpa to be using something like that. It's nearly impossible, I would think. So
and you know what, like, some things are better centralized, right? Like when people are like, we need a decentralized Uber or a decentralized Airbnb. I'm like, no, we don't. If you've got a problem, you want to phone up somebody at Uber and say, look, this happened and it was bullshit. Or if you got if you're like renting out your property, and somebody smashes it up, you then want to go and speak to somebody and say, look, my property. You want recourse, and you don't get that with decentralized things. So trying to decentralize everything is just like, it's just a red herring, and it's perpetuated by these Sandhill Road VCs who've got a history of like disrupting technology, thinking they can throw money at this and they can create a better Bitcoin or some new decentralized blockchain based thing because they've heard the buzzwords. But blockchain isn't actually that special.
I mean, it's kind of simple when you think about it. It's of what the actual use cases of it would be. And then I think we've seen not everything needs a blockchain. And this ICO craze and all that has kind of showed us that, hey, maybe not everything needs a damn blockchain. So well, I mean, let's just get it out there then. Tell us about your love for Ripple.
Do you mean Ripple coin?
Yes, Ripple coin, exactly.
I mean, I mean, you know what? Maybe they'll create a business out of that token that does some kind of bank remittance, right? That works, and they'll build some successful business off the back of that. Cool. Good luck to them. My main issue with it is, like, if you're not holding a bag of Ripple coin, like, why the fuck do you give a shit about like bank settlements?
Sure.
It's not like Apple have created like the coolest phone that you're going to use, or like Tesla have created this really cool car. It's bank settlements. Yeah, these people are suddenly passionate. They're like, I'm so passionate about bank settlements. I'm so passionate about XRP. Like, and it's just bullshit. And the worst thing of it all is the business is funded by Ripple Coin, the company, selling Ripple Coin, the token that they were allegedly gifted by Lord Voldemort at some point because they wanted to have this gift of Ripple Coins, and their business is financed by them selling it. And the only way they're going to do that is they're dumping it on retail and dumping it on hopeful people. And worst of all, they're like this weird Scientology like cult. Like, I was trying to figure out.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, like
I was
who has
to plug your podcast. I was listening to your episode with Mike Dudas that you just put out recently, and you guys were talking about just this angry mob sentiment with them. There's nothing else like it with any other project that I've ever seen.
It's fucking insane. Like, I just, it's insane. Like, the stupidity of the things that people say. But my like attacks on Ripple Coin were by design, right? Because what I was doing is I would attack it and then get all the people like arguing back with me, and then I'd block them. And it's like a strategy that works. But they're creating this like army of, like, I'm trying to, in my head, like, who has got the biggest cult following? Is it like Scientology, Ripple Coin, or Radiohead? Like, and I think it's close to Radiohead. Like, I heard this thing once, so somebody said like if Tom York farted in a light bulb, Radiohead fans would buy it, and that's kind of like. That's to me what like Ripple coiners are like. Like, they just buy any bullshit that's like spun to them, and then they go on these mad, insane rampages. Like anything like Coinbase says, there's like hundreds of tweets,
hundreds of comments. Yeah.
So I counted them once. There was like 300 replies. Like 1/3 of them were Ripple Coin comments. They've all share each other's content, and they all act like this like really nice, cute community. Like, sometimes I go in the Discord one just to see what they're talking about. It's fucking insane. So, fuck those guys.
So, if you're an XRP bag holder out there, we've just completely alienated you, and we apologize. But it needs to be said. But
and you're a fucking idiot.
It's funny though, when I first, I almost equate it to like maybe, and I don't mean to generalize, but like when I first got into the space and I first was like starting to learn about Bitcoin and all these other tokens and all these other projects, and I fell into what we talk about everybody else doing is like, okay, why wouldn't you buy this Ripple? It's it's 20 cents, and if it can do anything, you'll be rich. And then you realize what it's for, and now you realize what the spirit of crypto and decentralization and all that kind of stuff is, and it's just the opposite of that. And now I know better, but I feel like I definitely fell into that whole kind of black hole that I think a lot of people do when they start.
Right, so do you want to hear my crypto confession?
Yes.
Oh god.
So my best ever trade is Ripple Coin.
You know what, I don't doubt
it. Mine too. I've said it before on the show.
It was the third thing I bought, right? So when I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum, then I started looking at other things. I saw this like Ripple Coin thing, so I was like, "Cool, I'm going to buy it." And I bought it on this weird website like GateHub or something, and I can't remember the numbers, but I put like £500 in, right? And by the time I sold it, it was like 30,000. Or something ridiculous. I can't remember the numbers. Like, it was insane. Like, awesome. it was the first wave. Like when it went to like 50 cents or 40 cents. I can't remember. Whatever. But like, it was such a great trade. I've never traded it since.
That's awesome. It's funny. I've heard that from a couple people actually that very much do not like Ripple. But anyway, all right, we'll move on from Ripple. Sorry, all you XRP holders out there. Talk a little bit about how you got into your podcast and growing that and where that came from.
Yeah. So okay. So what happened was when Bitcoin, in 2017, early 17, started to make some kind of moves, and there was a bit of press coverage, I kept having friends say to me, "Oh, Pete, you've been involved in Bitcoin. How do I get involved?" And rather than write a brand new email each time I have a phone call, I created this email that I would just send out. Say, "Yeah, give me your email address, and I'll send you this." And it was what is Bitcoin? Why is it important? How you buy it? What is security? What are altcoins? It was like a mini guide. There's pretty much a version of it still on my website. It's not exactly the same, but very similar. So I just used to send that out. And then people were asking me what I was trading. So I was like, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll do a Facebook group. So I did this Facebook group, and my friends joined. And there was 150 of us, and I was writing about it. And I went out to LA to see my friend Justin, who kind of helped me come up with the name, actually, What Bitcoin Did. And we were just hanging out, and he said, he's an SEO guy, right? He's a search guy. He's like, this content you're writing is really good. You should do a website because you could monetize that one day. And I was like, I don't need the money, dude. I'm rolling in it. Right. And he was like, no, seriously, you never know. Just create a website. So we created this website, the What Bitcoin Did, set up the blog, and I started writing about kind of crypto. I used to do this daily crypto update. And then a lot of that content's been deleted, by the way, because I look back now and it's nonsense. But the blog started to grow, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do a podcast. I really want to do a podcast. I really like Laura's take. I used to listen to her podcast, but that was the only one I was listening to. And I felt it was a little bit, I don't know, she wasn't asking the questions I wanted to ask. Mm-hmm. I would go on Reddit and ask a question, and people are like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know shit." And you're like, "Oh, this is embarrassing." So I thought, what I'll do is I'll do a podcast. So I was back in LA, and I saw Luke Martin was in LA. He tweeted, so I just messaged him and said, "Look, dude, I'm going to do a podcast. Are you up for it? First show?" And he said, "Yeah." So I ordered all the gear on Amazon, took a Uber up to him, recorded the first show, and kind of went from there. It was just like a random set of coincidences, or just a random chain of events, but nothing really planned. It wasn't until I got out into North Carolina when I interviewed Jameson Lott, which was episode 3, that I was like, you know what, actually this is something I think I'm going to take serious. And yeah, that's how it happened, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, so obviously now it's one of the larger podcasts going at the moment, which is pretty awesome. So what were the questions that you wanted to ask? What was it that you wanted to accomplish with, your guests and things like that?
I wanted them to answer questions like they were talking to somebody who'd never been exposed to Bitcoin or crypto before, right? So if I'm with, say, Jameson Lott, I want to say, I'm making stuff up as I go here, but I want to say, what is mining? And when he explains it, I'm like, what is hash rate? Those kind of absolute basic questions that people assume people know, and I think people don't know. So, but also it was kind of I wanted to learn. So if you go through my history of my interviews, pretty much every time it's something I want to learn something.
Sure.
So at the moment, I just did the Tour de Mister one, which was a bearish case for Ethereum. But next I'm going to interview a couple of Ethereum guys, because I'm like, okay, I want to know what they say. I want to be convinced by them. Can they convince me Ethereum something? So it's always based on something I want to learn. That's what it is, really.
What's if you had to pick one, what's your favorite interview you've done?
Oh, it's a great question. I'm going to give you 2.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. So there's one standout one that will never change. My first interview with Lynn Ulbrich, which is obviously Ross Ulbrich's mum.
Awesome.
Went out to Austin, and that was a really important interview because it's a very important story, and it was really good interview because we didn't really talk about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's he's probably the most one of the 5 most. If you said the 5 most important people in Bitcoin, you can't not name him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe even if you name 3, you might be like him, Hal Finney, and Satoshi. I don't know, but definitely 5.
Right.
And or some people might be top 10, but he's super important. But also, it was a real test for me as an interview because I wasn't going in to ask about technology. It was like a really personal one.
Sure.
And it just went really well. She's become a friend. I've kind of met up with her 3 or 4 times now. I got a letter from Ross Ulbricht.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
really
he wrote
cool.
to me from prison. So that was kind of really cool, and that was really special. The next one I'm going to say is the one, and it's not just a plug because this is going to probably come out before your show, but tomorrow I've got an interview coming out with John Carvalho. Do you know Bitcoin Errorlog?
No.
Oh, man, that dude's... He's a great dude. So, like, he's the... No, you will know him. He's the guy who interviewed Roger Ver, got him to flick the bird.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
So he muted me because, like, early on when I was a bit boisterous on Twitter and just like, I got blocked by a few people, and like he muted me, and I kind of sensed he had. And then I put out this tweet storm a bit about Bitcoin, like everything's bullshit, Bitcoin's cool, and like he reached out to me and he'd said like, you've like come a long way, and I'd already dropped him a telegram saying, look, apologize for being a dick, and he was like, no worries. So I was like, cool, look, do you want to come on the podcast? And he said yeah, and we've done an episode called Defending Bitcoin. And I tell you why I really enjoyed this one. I felt like at the end of it, like I'm very self-deprecating. I feel like I am a bit of an idiot. I don't know a lot. I read some of these articles people write, and I'm like, man, how clever are you to write this? Or like, how clever are you to like build a blockchain? I can't do this stuff.
Peter, we do a show called REKT Podcast. So
But like at the end of that, we talked about S2X, and we talked about both interviewing Roger, and we talked about like just so many different things. And at the end of it, I kind of had a bit of like do you know what? I've definitely picked up some stuff, and I'm kind of proud of myself. So I really enjoyed that, just because I was like, I've learned something. I started to feel like I deserve to have this podcast. I've worked hard enough, and I deserve it. And
sure.
And yeah, that's my other favorite.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you're listening to our show and don't listen to Peter's, you're doing it wrong. So check him out on what Bitcoin did for those. They're very informative. You will learn something for sure.
Yeah, but mine isn't fun, right? Yours is a lot more fun.
Yeah, well, we have fun. Yeah, it's but like both are needed. Is the the opinion I have is we need to have fun and learn, and there's room for everybody, I think. So
well, do you know what I think? This funny thing is there's so many podcasts, but like all the ones that rise up because they're doing something like different or important. Like Laura has paved the way for all of us. She deserves everything that comes to her. All credit to her.
Yeah,
Pomp is our hype man, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you think of Pomp, I love the guy. He's the hype man. I don't agree with everything he says, but like he's our hype man. He's taken us to Wall Street. Like, I think maybe I'm for the beginners. I think if you're like a smart Bitcoiner, you've got Noded and you've got Stefan Livera. If you just want like a real chilled kind of like just a soothing voice, you've got Marty Ben. If you want a bit of more fun, you've got you guys. Like, to me, they're like my staple podcasts, like, because they've all risen because of doing something different or important. And I want, like, people are like, oh, there's too many. I was like, no, I want more, man.
I know. I'm the same way. I run out of podcasts to listen to. So, but all right, Peter, we would not be REKT Podcast without asking you, some of your biggest REKT stories. And I think, everybody has probably seen this Twitter thread by now. If you haven't,
if they haven't seen
we're
it,
going to talk about it.
If you haven't seen it,
right.
So
I have the actual first tweet of the thread right here. It got 8,209 likes and 2,482 retweets. So it has
holy cow!
It's made its way around. Yeah.
Wow.
But tell the people what I'm talking about, Peter.
Yeah, but you know what's funny thing about that? Like, you look at that, and then Pomp will put out a banker's closed down, short the banks, long Bitcoin, and he'll get like double that.
That's true.
So true.
I poured my heart and soul out into this. I've like I phoned my father saying, look, I'm going to put something out there. It's a bit risky. Like, it might blow up. And then Pomp's like, short Bitcoin, like, short the banks, boom. No, so I tell you what it was, right? Like, having watched my stash dwindle down and knowing I'm not the only one, and then seeing like so many people are like saying, oh, I got in at like November 17, when the next bull run comes I'm gonna do this, and I'm like,
yeah,
right, we need to get real here.
Sounds a lot like Chamber, actually.
Yeah. Like, one, there may not be another bull run. Two, you may lose more from now. Three, most of us really shouldn't be trading. And four, we need to get our kind of priorities straight. And I was like, something needs saying, like, I'm just going to go out and tell my story. And, you know, I'm quite a transparent guy, right? I always have been in, like, everything I do. I don't know why. I just am. I think I'm a bit like my mum. I just don't give a fuck. So, like, I think if I can share a story and it helps somebody else, then cool, right? It's like people are like, "Oh, you're so brave." I was like, "No, I wasn't." It's nothing brave about this. Like, honest, it's just a story, right? And also, like, I've got a podcast. Like, I've got a certain amount of responsibility. You know, I've before been very bullish and probably influenced people to get in and buy stuff. I need to be kind of equally responsible the other way around, right? And say, so I put it out there, and I expected it to get like a few retweets. I thought, you know, this might be one of my ones that gets like 1,000 likes. You know, I was prepared for that because I did have to think about, do I really want to put it out there? And then fucking hell, like, it just blew up. And I had an article in the Guardian this weekend.
I saw that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you know what the worst thing about that was? We did the only reason I did that is because they wanted a photo shoot, and in the photo shoot, one of the photos, I'm sat with the Ian Bellina picture, and they didn't publish that one.
Oh no! That's funny.
But I've had the BBC get in touch today. I had Sky News get in touch, but that was definitely a hit piece. So I said no. The reason I did the Guardian one, they were allowing me to at least put a positive spin on it.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it blew up, and you know, I'm not going to pretend it hasn't been good for the podcast. The podcast, like, downloads have gone up since. So, like, you know, I didn't do it for that, but like, I fully appreciate that if I tell a transparent story about my journey, it helps my podcast, it helps everyone else.
So let's talk about the actual tweets. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, let them know kind of what the whole context is there.
Right. So, funny thing is, I've never actually told this thing as well, right? The numbers are slightly wrong. They're actually worse.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, when I put it out there, I wanted to put it into dollars. So everyone understood. I put it out, so I translated my initial £23,000 into $32,000, but it didn't transfer the 1.2 million pounds. It was 1.2 million pounds, so whatever that is, like $1.6 million.
Oh God, right? Yeah,
definitely. So it's like so much worse. So yeah, I mean, just look, I peaked around December 17. I was like, I want 5 million. That's my goal. If I get 5 million, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to set up a load of businesses. I've got all this capital. I can employ like my best mate. I bought like through 350,000 or whatever, 300,000 of mining gear. I don't know the numbers. Like, paid 50,000 to set that up. You know, I got an office. I just did all this stuff, and then like spent a lot, and then it just market dropped, right? But what was costing me is every month I was having to pay mining bills for all my like 70 S9s and all my Dragon Mints, and because I was stuck in a contract. So like the thing just kind of got like, I remember like when it dropped to £900,000 and then it popped to over 1 million, and then when I was at consensus, it dropped to like 600,000. I was like, I think I should get out. But I was like, you know, there were like 3 drops last year. It's going to come back, and then it's never come back. It's just got worse and worse and worse. So I thought, look, it's important to tell the story, but like, it's a weird thing. I'm not bothered. Like, I am bothered. That's bullshit. Of course I'm bothered. I wish I'd sold it. I wish I had the money in the bank, but like, I've never been upset about it. I've never like, I've not got down about it. I'm just like, oh, okay, that was annoying. A bit like losing £20. Like, because I guess it never felt like real money. It's not like I had it.
Sure.
I put it in my bank, and then I blew it.
Right. That's a different story, I feel like.
And you came by it so easily.
Yeah, and you know, because I think the podcast has done so well. Like, I feel so blessed by that because, like, I'm a single dad. My son lives with me full time. My daughter's like half the time, and you know, it's expensive being a parent. And
sure.
And I can't go and get a job in Bedford because, like, there's no industry here. So I'd have to go to London, and I can't do that because I need to be here for my son. And I've now got this podcast that provides me a consistent, regular income each month. So, like, every month I've got what I need. Like, I've got enough to live on, and not just scraping by. Like, I've got enough to live on, and I really enjoy my life. Like, I get to. I'm doing this tonight with you guys. Like, how cool is that?
Sure, absolutely.
And then during the day, like I might be on Telegram, and I might 1 minute be talking to Cynthia, like winding each other up, or then I might be talking to like Zach Vowell from CoinPod, or then I might be doing an interview like tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm interviewing Roger Ver. For the
nice!
The big bad wolf. So like I've got like life is fine. Like I just don't have all this money.
Right. Yeah. So it says here that at your peak you had topped out around 150 Bitcoin, and you were still trading. You were trading at that point.
So my top Bitcoin wasn't when I was at my top dollar. So I topped out 150 Bitcoin, like I think maybe July.
Okay, got it.
My Bitcoin was started going down, but my dollar value was going up, and I never understood at that time why that was wrong. Because I was just a shit trader. So by the time I had 1.2 million, like my Bitcoin value was less than 150.
Got it. So you were essentially losing trading. You were losing trades, but making money because the price of Bitcoin kept going up.
It was going up.
Yeah. So but I thought I was doing well because I was calculating my portfolio
in dollars or pounds.
And do you know what? Luke Martin told me this early on. He's like, just trade for Bitcoin. And I was like, no, dude, I'm making dollars here. And he's like, trade for Bitcoin. And I was like, you're right. I get it. So yeah, like that was another thing I screwed up, but it doesn't matter.
So what do you think, out of this whole journey so far, what's the biggest thing, that you've learned through, or that like the biggest piece of advice you would give to, somebody out there who's either new or maybe in the same boat?
Just don't start trading. Like, just don't get into it, because like for every dude out there who's made a million, and there are people out there who've made millions, right? For every dude who's made a million has been lost from dumb retail, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you are competing with shady exchanges who've got loads of information. They're counter trading you. They know where people's stops are. Like, the system is rigged, like worse than a casino. Like, the only way I think you can beat this is if you think like Arthur Hayes, if you think like Big Smokes. I don't think anyone should be trading.
Right.
I don't think anyone should be trading Twitter. This shit.
Yeah, I said on somebody's Twitter the other day that honestly, to be a really good trader, I feel like you have to be a complete sociopath. And I just don't, not many people may have sociopathic qualities, but really, like if you think about like Cobain's a sociopath and he's a great trader. But most people are not cut out to be traders. It's just...
Are you and Cobain still friends or what?
Cobain and I kissed and made up, so...
Oh, okay. How about the mining part? Do you have any regrets there, like jumping in so heavily or anything like that?
No. Like, regrets is like a weird word, right? Because, like... You're regretting something that you thought was the right decision at the time. So, like, you can regret. I can regret going and drink this coffee because, like, it's going to make me put a bit of weight on. Or, like, I went and bought a battered sausage on the way as well, and like I've like toyed with eating that, and I'm like, I already had 2 on the way, right? And I'm like, and I can regret that later because I've got a gut on me. Like, what's the point? You can't regret's stupid, right?
Sure.
Every time I made what I thought was the right decision at the time. I thought I'm going to get into this mining, make a bunch more money, and I did for a month, and then it like went to shit. And like, so what? I made a mistake. I think it's more important rather than to regret things. Is like just learn from things going forward. It's like I know now I'm not an ASIC miner, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm not cut out for it, and I shouldn't do it.
Did you sell all your equipment, or do you still have it?
I've got it. Like it's so one set's switched off, not mining at the moment. The other set is, but it's so close to break even. Like I'm just like fuck it, we'll just hold out and see what happens. But no, I don't have any regrets. And also, like for whatever in the long run, if I've contributed to the security of the Bitcoin network and lost some money, then I'm collateral damage for the benefit of Bitcoin, and I'll take that one on the chin.
Yeah, sure. That's cool. Definitely an interesting story. Also, just tell people the. So one of your goals was to buy the Bedford football team.
So I'm still going to do that one day, right? Do you
I
want to
saw
know
that on your 2019 goals.
Yeah, no, like I'm going to buy that club. So they're so crap, and they won't cost anything, right? And last year when my portfolio hit 1.2 million, we made an inquiry to buy it. Me and my friend Tom.
Really?
Yeah, you could buy them.
That's
you would have been
awesome.
able to buy them for nothing, but you would have to invest money in. But we thought it'll be fun. Let's liquidate and do that. And if they'd have said yes, I probably wouldn't have been in this position because I would have liquidated the money to do it, right?
Sure, interesting.
Yeah, like even though I had the goal to get to 5 million, well, I probably would have liquidated half of it, but whatever, who knows? Interesting thing. So this thing went out in The Guardian this weekend, right? Some girl got in touch with me on Facebook who I knew from school days, and she was like, I work at Bedford Town. If you can buy it, like the current owners are rubbish. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to buy it. So like, I've got a plan. I've got ideas. Like, one thing I know how to do. I know how to set up businesses and make money, right? So I know how to do that. So I'm gonna like have a go, and hopefully one day I can do it. And that's been the childhood dream.
Cool. That's awesome. I always said that if I had hit the lottery or any huge sum of money, I would buy like a Major League Baseball team or something. So
who's your team?
I'm a Yankee fan. I'm from New York, New Jersey area, so I grew up a Yankee fan. But that was always my dream too. But you need a lot more than $5 million to buy the Yankees.
So I'm a Dodgers fan.
Okay, got it. You might be looking at Bryce Harper this year.
Well, I don't know much about baseball, but when I was out in LA, all those those trips I kept telling you about, I was there when they were in the playoffs. And I went to the game where what's the guy with the big beard? Justin Turner?
Yep.
Where he hit the walk-off home run.
Oh, that's a cool game.
And I was like, okay, you've got me.
Now I get it.
Now I get it. This is why you watch like 150 games. For this, for this one moment.
Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate you sharing all those stories with us. We'll move on to a couple of items in the news. Cynthia, why don't you start us off here, since Chamber usually goes first, but...
He does. I'm not ready. Let me pull up my news story. Oh, this is good, because when you guys told me, the story is about the Winklevoss twins. Yep. I refer to them as one entity. The article is obviously from CCN. That Bitcoin needs regulation so investors don't get burned. And then I remember that Peter was the one photoshopping their ads and posting them on Twitter.
That's perfect.
So, I mean, if you've been anywhere, you've seen this huge ad campaign that they've been running lately. And basically saying that we need rules and regulations so that investors will, put their money into it. And of course, our, Bitcoin maximalist cypherpunk, friends are like, rules. We don't need rules. We don't need KYC. We don't need AML. BitLicense bullshit. So I think I see both sides of that point of view, especially when it's coming from Wall Street guys. But it's definitely interesting.
Peter, what are your thoughts on regulation and everything like that? Where do you think that's headed? What is your opinion on that?
I quite like the Winklevoss twins, right? I like their story, right? I can't remember what they got out of Facebook, but was it like 80 million or something, 60 million? And
they were okay afterwards.
Because they came up with this crap idea, Harvard Connect, which would never have been Facebook. It would never have been Facebook. It would have been like a message board or some crap. It stuck. I mean, it was called Harvard Connect, right? But you know what? They did that and they made their money, and they were always going to be successful dudes. Always. And they are rowers, and they are Harvard, and they are obviously going to be status, whatever you call them. They're obviously going to be status, and they're obviously going to toe the line, and they're going to go to dinner with regulators. I get that, right? Cool. Do what you want to do. Your crypto needs rules. Fuck off. But it's just fuck off. It just fundamentally is entirely wrong for me as an ad campaign. I get why they've done it, and loads of people are going to say this is highly successful, but fuck off. I just think, It's just like, this is not the message. This makes our message harder, right? When you're
I feel like this is exactly
Bitcoin,
what crypto isn't about. That's the opposite of what Bitcoin is about.
And the problem I've got with it is, like, in some ways they're right. Crypto needs rules, right? But let's put crypto over there and have Bitcoin over here. And Bitcoin is about the problem with rules. And when you're trying to explain to people what Bitcoin is and why it's so important, it's because of the rules. It's because of the way governments print money. It's because of people living under authoritarian regimes. For me, the message shouldn't be about that. And I interviewed, like I mentioned, I got John Carvalho, and he said that his fear is that all these institutions come in, and you're going to get someone like like JP Morgan ending up with a huge Bitcoin stash and ending up controlling the price, and that's his fear, and I'm kind of with him now.
Yeah, I would agree there for sure. I tend to agree with you there. I think the idea to regulate crypto but keep Bitcoin separate is an interesting one for sure. And I also agree with Cynthia. It's the opposite of kind of what the movement and all that kind of stuff is about. But we will go to our next news story. This one is just a straight up REKT news story. The South African national cricket team falls for a Bitcoin Twitter scam. So the South African national Twitter team, it looks like, I don't know if they fell for they didn't specifically fall for it. So the title is a little misleading, but it looks like the account was hacked. So this team has more than 1 million followers, and the Twitter account of their team, a verified Twitter account, was hacked, and they put out a tweet that says, the official CSA, which is the Cricket South Africa, is partnering with Luno Money for the first South African Bitcoin lottery, and it says, simply send 0.01 BTC to this address, and you'll be entered into the lottery for 20 Bitcoin. And the lottery closes at January 10th, and so It sounds like they got lots and lots of people fell for it. So it says as much as maybe $170,000 worth of Bitcoin was sent to whatever address that is.
Oh my God.
And then they came back and tweeted out that they were hacked and they apologize and all that stuff. But you're seeing more and more of these Twitter things that actually look legit. We saw the one with Elon Musk and the official G Suite account and stuff. So the message is going to be the same. Be careful, don't fall for that stupid shit. Twitter, Peter, you ever been scammed like that?
Not like that. The only one I got done on was the Confido, like a project. I bought their token. I put £25,000 into it.
Oh,
project. Yeah, but remember at the time I was rich.
Right.
I was like, whatever, 25 grand. Yeah. You win some, you lose some. Fucking genius over here is a millionaire. Yeah. Could do with that 25 grand right now, but like that happened. But this is just why we need education, and also it's another reason why it'd be so much easier if everything was just kind of Bitcoin. Yeah. It'd be one thing you've got to teach people.
I don't know, Peter. It sounds like you're a Bitcoin maximalist.
I'm a Bitcoin maximalist sympathizer.
I'm starting to hear it. So that's going to do it for our news segment. We are going to do a couple more fun things here with Peter really quickly. We're going to get him into rapid fire. So, Peter, rapid fire is just going to be us throwing some regular questions at you, some crypto related, some not. Just be your normal, regular, transparent self. So let's see here. What is your favorite movie?
E.T.
E.T. Interesting. Oh, that's I don't think we've ever gotten that one answered. How about this one? This is my favorite one to ask people, and we get a whole bunch of different answers. What would be your go-to karaoke song?
Crisscross Jump.
Oh, That's a solid one. So we interview a lot of people, and some are like, "Eh, man, I don't karaoke," and then some you're very surprised at their answers. I think my most the one I talk about all the time was Charlie Shrem, who his go-to song was Linkin Park song, and he goes to do karaoke every Saturday. And I was like, wow, that blows my mind.
Man,
so
I don't need the auto cue for Jump.
you got it. You got the whole thing.
I got it.
That's awesome. How about, let's see. I feel like you've traveled lately in the past year or so pretty often. But what is a place that would be on your travel bucket list?
Ooh. French Polynesia.
That's a good one. How about what was growing up? What was your dream job?
Oh, my dream job growing up. I wanted to work in the music industry.
Cool. You wanted to represent Criss Cross.
Well, no, listen, so it's funny, it's all come full circle. I had a fanzine, like a metal fanzine, when I was like 14.
Really?
So I interviewed like Korn and Slayer and Pantera.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the whole thing's come full circle. And then I did like work experience at record companies. I wanted to work in A&R. I wanted to discover the bands.
That's cool. That's very cool. So what would be your favorite? I'm not sure if this was you that was tweeting this. Were you the one tweeting about the albums this weekend?
Yeah, like flawless albums.
Yeah. So okay, what was on your list?
Well, so these are flawless albums, but they aren't necessarily my favorite albums, right? These are albums where I think there's not a single filler. So I had Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, Rage Against the Machine,
Mm-hmm.
Urban Discipline by Biohazard, which is my like far out one. Back to Black by Amy Winehouse, and I can't remember what the last one I put was. Oh, Eminem Marshall Mathers LP.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's a fantastic one. That's one of my favorites.
I was like 13, running around the streets of Illinois, like rapping.
But you know,
thought it was so cool.
But you know what the thing is, like with those albums, they're all albums I genuinely would listen to every single track and never forward it. And then people were throwing out examples, like someone would say like Pearl Jam 10, which is a phenomenal album. Like in some ways, it's better than some of those albums. But the track Deep should never have made the cut. Sure. It's like the let down track, and therefore, like I get to Deep and I switch off 10, and so it's that was the point. And then I think people confuse this with saying, "Well, here's my favorite album."
What's your favorite album? Sure,
flawless albums. And then, one of the great things out of that is like I was at the gym today and I was listening to Tool because I was like, "Shit, I haven't listened to." Like people were saying Tool, I was like, "I haven't listened to them in ages." But
so, what is your favorite album then?
Oh man, so
hard.
Do you know what? Like, I would go Alice in Chains Unplugged.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
all right, so
yeah,
and that's the beauty of these rapid fire segments. We get to give the audience a little peek into who you are besides the Bitcoin. What was your favorite altcoin you've ever owned?
That's a tough one because I think I really at the time I really liked Dash. When I first got Dash, I was like, I really like Dash. I don't know why, but I think right now I'd have to just say Monero because it's the only altcoin I own outside of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
that's the. So, side note then, what's your take on privacy coins and that whole segment?
I think it's important. I think privacy will come to Bitcoin and then it will be irrelevant everywhere else. Privacy coins only have a value if you want to do something. So say you want to use do some quasi-legal transaction, then you probably want to use Monero. But as soon as it comes to Bitcoin, they become irrelevant.
That's interesting. So what's the privacy avenue for Bitcoin? I'm not too familiar with.
There's different people want on-chain. I think you get a lot of privacy in Lightning Network. Like I haven't looked enough into it, but from what I understand, you get a lot of privacy in Lightning Network because I don't think people like chain analysis can analyze and follow the transactions like they can do on Bitcoin because it's a public blockchain.
Sure.
I think I quite like the idea of the Bitcoin base chain being transparent. You can verify the 21 million coins, and I quite like the thought of privacy being kind of maybe on a side chain.
Cool.
But there's a long way to go on this. Like, we've got, this is probably going to be the next big thing for Bitcoin.
Right. I was listening to your show, and I've heard a couple of people say that this is probably going to be, the next big Bitcoin war, about like the scaling debate and everything like that. And
I think there'll be a lot of deep discussion about it, but I don't see a split coming. I don't think it's going to divide and create new coins because of it,
like it did with the scaling debate. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the fun. Who would you rather take financial advice from, Ian Bellina or Carlos Matos?
Ian Bellina, man. Ian's my boy.
And okay, last one here. Who's better looking, you or Cody Vargas?
I mean, I'm not going to throw my boy under the bus, am I? I think we're equally good looking. I think you can swap us out.
The picture of you two together was where was it?
Do you know the story?
No, I don't.
Listen,
so funny.
It's so funny, right? So this was at World CryptoCon in Vegas.
Okay,
right?
that's what I thought. Yeah,
like the worst conference ever. But like loads of people going that I knew, and I was meeting up with Lynn. Anyway, so I'm at this conference, and it must have been 4 or 5 times people have come to me and go, "All right, Cody." I'm like, I'm not Cody, I'm Peter. And like it just kept happening. And then Crypto Wendy organised this party for my birthday. Like it was my 40th. She organised a party, and I'm at this table, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Goddess or someone came up to me, and she's like, "All right, Cody." I'm like, "I'm not Cody," and she goes, "Oh no, look, there's Cody." And it was Cody. I've never met the guy, and I'm like, "All right, you're Cody." It's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, everyone keeps saying to me, 'Hi, Cody,' and I think I know why." It's like, "Dude, everyone keeps saying to me, 'Hi, Pete.'"
That's so funny. That's pretty funny. You just brought up Crypto Wendy. We've had her on the podcast. I want to just shout her out. She was she was getting some flack on Twitter this weekend from some unnecessary flack, in my opinion. So I just want to make the point to say that we appreciate everything that she does.
Wendy.
Same with Shil Nye, and everybody was kind of getting on their backs this weekend, and I was like, just give it a fucking
the last
rest,
conference
man.
that I went to was Voice of Blockchain, and I spent a lot of time with both Nye and Wendy, and they honestly both, especially Wendy, just because I hung out with her more. Wendy is such a down-to-earth, just great person, and Nye, I don't know him as well, but I did spend time with him, and he honestly just is. He's like our mini Pomp, like our positive vibes. Just he's a good guy, and I've gotten flack before too. It just kind of comes with the territory, and but yeah.
Listen, I've met both of them. I've hung out with Nye a few times. He's hung out with my kids in LA. Like, I don't agree with Nye on the majority of his views on crypto, right?
Sure.
And I don't agree with Wendy, right? But that doesn't make them bad humans. I don't agree with some people on their politics, right? But it doesn't make them bad humans. I'm not a shitcoiner, but I've never had a bad interaction with Nye. He's always a really nice guy, and you know what? He's made a life for himself. Like, what a life! He travels the world, right?
It's fucking awesome.
And like these little fucking bullies online who whip up a storm and they just want to attack someone. We know who we're talking about, and they whip up their little mates and they start attacking someone, and I don't think they realize like the impact that can have on someone, how they feel.
Sure.
And like, if you've got a problem with them, talk to them. I've learned that not to do it, but like, I know what these guys are like. I've met them in real life, and if you meet them in real life, they're not going to say a boo to a ghost, but they get online, they become a keyboard warrior. But the worst thing of all, like, is when you jump to the defense and say, "Hold on, leave Wendy alone." They're going to go, "Oh, you go white knighting." It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
What I am doing is far more noble than what you're doing, and it's not white knighting. It's just saying you're being a dick to somebody and you're affecting someone's life. And like, I've got zero patience for it. I've got no time for it, because the way I see it, right, you might think Wendy's not the best trader. Okay, fine. Go to your local town, find your favourite restaurant, then go to every restaurant you think isn't the best restaurant and go in there and go, "You shouldn't have a fucking restaurant because you don't know what you're doing." And, like, well, come on, give us a break.
it's like old. It gets getting old already. So,
and they're just bullies.
I know. Every week it's something new or somebody new, and it's just okay. Next. So, but shout out those guys. I just wanted to bring that up because you said you mentioned them and made me think about it. So, but other than that, look, that's gonna do it for us. We want to give you a platform here, real quick, to kind of tell people where they can find you, any projects you're working on, anything like that. So, the floor is yours.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, just check out my podcast. It's What Bitcoin Did. You can find my website. It's whatbitcoindid.com. You want to email me, it's hello@whatbitcoindid. If you want to tweet me, use my personal, it's Peter McCormack. DMs are open. Yeah, I'm just working hard on the podcast. New episode every week. 2 episodes a week, and I'm going to be doing a Bitcoin special. And someone's joined us right at the end.
Hey, Chamber, we got here right at the end.
Right at the end. Let's carry on.
So that's... well, definitely check out Peter's podcast. Like I mentioned, he does an awesome job, has really awesome people on. You're going to learn something for sure. So, we like to have fun here, but Peter does the real work. So,
how you doing, Chamber?
Hey.
So Chamber has joined us right at the very end. So
what?
We were literally just that was it. We were over. So
I made it in, guys.
We're still rolling. So
the streak's alive.
I've got
for Peter.
I got plenty of meat, Chamber. We should go. They can go. Do you know what? Can I tell you something like that's kind of rude about Chamber?
Yes,
can I be rude?
Absolutely.
Please.
Chamber, you're like the perfect human Guess Who character.
Please go on. I need elaboration on that.
Because you've got everything. I do
have everything. When you say, right.
Bald head,
do they
glasses.
Have a beard? Yeah.
Beard.
Do they have a beard? Do they have glasses?
Does he look like David Cross?
Yes. All of those things. I'm the impossible guess.
So how was your meeting?
It was fruitless. And pointless, and I wish I was here with you guys.
Well, it is important that you did end up showing up because your streak is alive.
Streak's alive, baby.
So what is this? You missed one show ever?
Yeah, the John McAfee show,
which was a big one.
Of all the ones to miss.
I am still the disappointment of the podcast. No worries, everyone.
No.
That's commitment, Chamber. So any questions for Peter before we
I was texting you guys British television questions. Did we ask those already?
Oh, I didn't see any of those.
No.
Come
on.
So I just have a couple questions. This is from my wife. My wife and I both love British television, and we were wondering. She was wondering if you watch Coronation Street, being from England.
No, because.
But I'm sure all of your aunties and
it's just
it's too much.
It's one of those things. The same stuff happens every week.
It sure does.
It's like watching your neighbors live. But you're like, but yeah, your weird northern neighbors. It's a weird northern auntie, and way too much stuff goes on for a tiny little town.
Okay, my question, my favorite British television show of all time is The Mighty Boosh.
Okay,
I know it. Haven't watched it.
It's kind of weird comedy, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of off the wall.
It is very
that's
strange. Yes, it's very my speed.
That's more like my brother.
Any British television recommendations you would make?
What do I watch? No, because you know what it's like. I watch all your stuff. I'm about to start True Detective.
I'm sitting here. I'm watching all your stuff.
Yeah, I've just watched Escape from Dannemore. I watch all your stuff.
Okay, Bunchu and I were having a discussion the other day on what the better office was, British Office or American Office. Any feedback there?
Well, it's obviously the British Office.
Obviously.
It doesn't work. But the thing is about the Office is, it's one of those ones, it only works locally, right?
Agreed.
The British one won't work as well because there's so many of the jokes where if I was watching with you, I'd be laughing and you'll be like, what the fuck are you laughing at?
I agree. So that's good. So I think my answer to that was, I would take the American Office just based on longevity because there's more seasons of it. But as far as the boss goes, I would take David Brent over Michael Scott.
But you're Americans. You milk the shit out of everything.
I'm Canadian. I'm kind of in between. I'm the hybrid of the group.
It's kind of the same thing, though, right?
I feel we're shunned by both.
Yeah, you right, exactly. You're just the only difference is you sweat maple syrup.
I sure do.
Sure do. Anything else while we got you here, Chamber?
No, that's everything. I don't want to keep them any longer. It's probably like midnight over there, isn't it?
It's like 10:30, but it's cool, man. I love this. It's probably my favorite one I've ever done.
Oh yeah, high praise.
Look at that.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So anyway, yeah, like I said, find Peter at whatbitcoindid.com and listen to his podcast. Any teasers for who you got coming up next?
If John Carvalho's out tomorrow. I'm also interviewing the big bad wolf tomorrow, which I told you about, Roger Ver. So that's my second one with him.
Chamber.
I'm going to get a shitload of flack for that, like I did last time.
That's good ratings.
So wait, talk about that really quick, because I know last time you got a bunch of flack when you first interviewed him, and then talk about maybe what the difference will be this time, if any.
Well, my view is it's my platform. I'll interview whoever I want. But when people say this thing, oh, you're giving Roger a platform for his nonsense, it's like nobody is going to listen to my interview with him and then be converted, right?
Right.
No one is. But everyone can learn with knowledge. And like when I went out to interview, and like I flew to Japan to do it, right? I spent like £3,000 to do that interview. That's crazy. I went because I was pretty sure I was a small blocker, but I wasn't 100% convinced, and I wanted to meet the guy. I wanted to look him in the eye, and I wanted to just have the chat with him, and I'm glad I did it. I don't regret it. Anyone says I'm giving him a platform is ridiculous. Like I always say, well, what about Louis Theroux? Is he giving a platform to racists and blah?
Right.
It's just such nonsense. And look, I'll interview him again, and I'll get a load of flack for it again, but the reason I want to interview him this time is like so much has happened. Mm-hmm. And he's been hit with his own contentious fork, right? I want to see what his view is, because if he doesn't now have sympathy for the people on the end of his own decisions, then he's a hypocrite. So I want to have that conversation with him. I want to catch up with him. I want to talk to him about Ross, because we both been a supporter of Ross and the family. Yeah, so that's coming up. I've got a potential mega one coming up. I'll tell you when the mic stop rolling.
That's
awesome.
Exciting.
That's cool. But again, thank you so much, Peter. We've had a blast having you on, and we really appreciate your time. Go listen. His stuff's awesome. But other than that, don't forget to please give us a rate and 5-star review if you like what we're doing. It helps a lot, goes a long way. And if you are into the nonsense you're hearing and want to come hang out with us, join our Telegram group, t.me rekt_podcast, and follow us on Twitter at rekt_podcast as well.
I just wanted to hop in here. Did we talk about the other thing we were working on earlier this week?
No, I don't, because I don't know what you're talking about. So
the Patreon page. Did we?
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's yours.
All right. So yeah, if you want to contribute as a patron on Patreon, we've created the site, and we're going to make that live. I guess as of Tuesday morning.
Yep, probably tomorrow.
Yeah. So check that out. We have 4 different tiers you can participate in. It'll help us obviously create better content for you guys. It's as we've found out over the last few months, it does take a lot to put a quality show together. So that'll go towards that. So we'll post that with the show tomorrow on Twitter, and we'll post it on our Telegram and all that fun stuff.
I totally forgot. Thank God you were here.
Look at that.
But anyway, so yeah, we'll shoot out all the details to that, and please consider it. It does go a long way to help support the show, and we have some costs that we incur doing this. So, but. Other than that,
mostly legal costs.
Yeah, mostly legal costs. Chamber just says whatever he thinks
I'm a live wire.
Yeah, he's a walking lawsuit. So anyway, but other than that, for Chamber and Cynthia, who has now dropped, we just swapped you.
Nice.
I've never seen you two in the same room. So
upgrade.
And thank you again for joining us, Peter. Any last words, Peter?
No, look, thank you for having me. I absolutely love this, guys. Anytime you want me back, it'd be more than a pleasure.
Cool. Thank you very much. And as always, until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice.